Salutations.
It's Thursday.
It is Thursday, and it's basically Friday, right? Because tomorrow's a holiday.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Freedom Day.
I keep being reminded about it.
Jason Charnes keeps asking me to go to Costco and try and find that bourbon with the bald eagle bottle. I looked for it, but I couldn't find it.
Dude, they're building a Costco right by me now. Even though there's another one down the road, I don't really understand, but they're building a big one near me.
You just need more and more Costco.
I don't go to Costco. I grew up going to Sam's Club, which was pre-Costco.
We go to both because Costco doesn't have everything. So we end up going to both all the time.
I just don't need it. I live alone. I use Blue Apron for all my meals, which I love.
Yeah. We haven't subscribed to Blue Apron for a long time.
Dude, I'm going to put my referral link in the show notes. I have a ramen place I really like to go to. And if you've ever come to Phoenix, you might have been to it with me. And I was talking to the bartender that always serves me. And we were talking about Uber Eats and DoorDash. She's like, yeah, I spend so much money like on DoorDash, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, you should try this Blue Apron thing out. I was like, I really like it. And gave her my referral link and she signed up on the spot. And I was like, yes, free stonks.
Is Blue Apron the one? I can't remember. We did one of them and they came a lot of times with the vegetables or whatever were pre-chopped. Because I forget which one it was, but I was like, surprisingly, that one saved a ton of time. It didn't feel as fresh because tomatoes or whatever might be pre-cut, or it may not have been that kind of stuff. But there was one and I was like, this is really convenient though, because turns out when you're like reading the recipe instructions, they're like, yeah, chop these up. It doesn't really feel like that takes much of the time, but actually, if you're not like real good at it, it takes a lot more time preparing everything just to get ready to cook than you might expect. So we had like gone between that, but then with the kids and like stuff after school or random things coming up, we'd end up doing we do like 3 or 4 a week. And then by Sunday, we're like, oh shit, we have 2 or 3 of these left to eat or something. And it was like, maybe we should pause. It's always tricky to find the right number. Every week it tends to like vary for us.
That has happened to me. I throw like the meat in the freezer. It works out well for me because I have the plan where it gives you like 2 servings per meal. And so I'll make it after work for dinner and then I'll have leftovers for lunch the next day.
Super handy.
Yeah, I just had some pesto tortellini that was spinach and tomatoes. So good.
The problem is no one in my house likes the same food. We'd have to really get a wide variety plan to feed everybody here.
I would rather go out on my Blackstone every day and throw some fresh food down and just like keep it super simple than eating leftovers.
That's crazy, dude.
I'm with you, Chris.
It's not that much longer. It's not that much more time.
Then throwing something in the microwave for 30 seconds?
Dude,
now
throw it on the Blackstone for like 5 minutes and I'm done.
I don't have a Blackstone, bro.
Dude,
but that doesn't come with the fixes.
That's the ticket.
Yeah, just throw Blackstone on my rental condo porch.
Dude, it's the best. Really, your cleanup is scrape everything into the like grease tray and then like slap a little oil back on it and then use it tomorrow. That's it.
The most upset my dad has probably ever made me is when he and my mom came to my house for a few days and then did like a wine tour in California or something. And he made breakfast with my cast iron pan and then he like scrubbed it clean. And I was like, no, that was
my seasoning.
That was the flavor. You got rid of the flavor. I was mortified. I was like, no, you're not supposed to wash it like that. You're not supposed to wash it like
shiny again.
Yeah, like you just threw out so much like steak and
it's not even black anymore.
Oh my Lord, I was mortified.
That is funny. I always enjoy the like Reddit cast iron subreddit post that somebody's like takes a picture of it, putting it in their dishwasher or something, and everybody's freaking out.
That's rage bait. That's some peak rage bait too.
Oh.
What API has rage baited you this week?
Stripe.
I
knew it. I knew it before even asking the question.
Dude,
is there any other API?
I made it oopsie because I think I mentioned that we were migrating all the subscriptions in our app to be a subscription with tiers.
Yeah,
and we had someone open an issue, like one of our support people opened an issue, and they're like, we've been noticing like an increasing amount of card declines this month. And Jamie was like, he pinged me and my project partner. He's like, do you guys think this could be related to like a default payment method thing or something? And I was like, the hell is default payment method? And that's when I realized that we'd migrated all these subscriptions over, but we did not carry over the payment method because it just never once ever came up because there's like a fallback thing.
It'll transfer them just fine without it.
Yeah, well, because it'll use like the card that's attached to like the customer. There's like two things it'll fall back to if it's not on the subscription itself. And I was like,
yeah,
why would it be on the subscription itself?
The old ones were attached to the subscription.
You can attach them to the subscription. You can attach them to the customer invoices, or you can attach them to like the default method on like the customer, I think.
Yeah. Were the ones you forgot to move over?
They were all attached to the subscriptions.
Subscription, yeah. Yeah, because if you use like Stripe checkout, it'll attach it directly to the subscription, which always confuses me because it's like, why is that not a configurable option? It should just be something as simple as I could tell checkout any payment method that changes is the default card for this customer.
Yeah,
they don't let you do that. And it's a pain for customers if they have multiple subscriptions. They've got to go edit every single one of them.
Yep.
And they still have the manage your payment method section. So you can like add a payment method that isn't used, but it isn't obvious that if I added a payment method, it doesn't change what is going to be charged. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm sure there are reasons for it, but like, it's a weird thing where it's like, I guarantee you there are plenty of complicated businesses that need the complexity of it, but the small businesses do not need any of that, and they don't cater to that, it seems like. It would be so nice. I feel like that was the Stripe I grew up knowing and loving. It was the simple things, and now it's, as they get more enterprise focused or whatever, it's just complexity out the wazoo.
Well, the bright side of this kind of catastrophic issue is that in one of my rare strokes of genius, which they are rare, but they do happen, when we first built this migration process, I added metadata to the new subscriptions that pointed to the old ones that we were migrating them from.
Oh, yeah.
So because of that, I was able to write a maintenance task. It's like, okay, so for every
single subscription,
get the metadata, get the old subscription, see if it has a payment method attached to it, and then update the existing subscription to have that. And then you got to do a special thing for schedules, of course, but
sure.
Good Lord.
Well, that's good at least. I was going to ask if you caught it before cancellations happened. The retry schedule's configurable, but I assumed
I think we did catch it
probably before then, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. There was one person that wrote in that was like, you guys try to charge like a old card on my account. I'm like, huh? And that's when it like all started. Jamie was like, did you do something with the default payment method? I was like, default payment method. And I like searched the migration code. I was like, that's not in our code anywhere. And I looked on Stripe and I was like, what the hell is this?
That's funny. Well, at least it could have been worse. I will say that.
It could have been worse. And yes, so shout out to past Andrew for adding that metadata because that really saved our app.
When your app breaks in production, you want to quickly understand and fix it, not sift through the logs for the next hour. That's where Honeybadger comes in. Honeybadger notifies you of errors, outages, and performance issues as they occur and helps you respond instantly when your systems go down. When you need to dig deeper, Honeybadger's advanced query engine helps you reach into your logs and grab just the information you need. With error tracking, performance and uptime monitoring, log management, and support for over 10 languages, Honeybadger is the best tool to gain real-time insights into your application's health and performance. Best of all, it's free to get started and setup takes less than 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www honeybadger.io.
The other thing that happened, was it this week or last week? Maybe it was at the end of last week. GitHub Actions made an update that action steps can now be run in parallel. So before you'd have to do like some sort of matrix typey thing, but now there's built-in parallel support. So you can run things in the background, which runs a step asynchronously, immediately continues to the next step. And then there's like a wait or wait all keyword that pauses the execution until one or more named background steps complete. And then there's a parallel keyword that takes a group of steps and converts them to background steps. And I was like, that's really interesting. The background thing is really nice too, because for instance, if you're running like a Rails test suite, for example, you might want to set up Ruby immediately, but you might not need Node until you actually start running tests that require Node to be there. You might do stuff in the middle, like setting up the database and linting or whatever. So for the step that actually needs Node to be there, you can add the wait keyword to like wait Node. And then as soon as Node is ready, it'll run that step. Or if it's been done by the time it gets there, it'll just go ahead and run. And I was able to take that along with another change that I made, which basically I realized that we were spending a lot of time doing like DB test prepare, creating the database and then running the schema dump on it. So what I did is I moved that to like a purely like Postgres command instead of like using Rails to do that, and caching it as well. So with that, change to how we like create the database in the test environment, and with the new parallel stuff, I was able to drop 20 to 30% off our entire test suite run.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I have another change or two I want to make, but I'm thinking I can get it on sub 4 minutes, which it's right around 4 minutes right now on a warm cache run. And it used to be around 5. Now it's around 4. And I think I can get it below 4. So yeah, the parallel stuff is really nice. Like just for an example of a parallel, because I talked about the waiting stuff, but for a parallel thing, like we have like a linter workflow, and we changed it recently so that instead of running it, because I was finding like standard RB was taking like a minute and a half or something to like run linter. And I was like, it's way too much time. So we made a change so that standard and ESLint only run on changed files only if Ruby or JavaScript files have changed. Not just Ruby or JavaScript, but if a glob of files have changed, then we run standard only on those changed files. And that sped those up a ton. But we also had in a separate job in that workflow, we were running Brakeman and Zeitwork check. Because Zeitwork check has actually caught things for me in the past. It hasn't flagged anything for me recently, but there are times where it will flag something. And if Zeitwork check doesn't pass, then your app's not going to boot. So you want that to pass. So I find value in that being in your CI suite. So what I did is I put Brakeman and Zeitwork into a parallel step. So now they run at the same time. And I also put a bunch of like Ruby setup node steps into parallel. So they'll set up at the same time now, which is very nice. So that's big improvement.
Yeah, the Zeitwork check saved me multiple times, and plenty of Hatchbox customers could have been saved by that too if they had run it. Because yeah, it'll be something where I deployed my app and it's not working anymore. And it's like, yeah, did you read the logs? It can't boot your app because you referenced a class that doesn't exist or something like that. We haven't seen that for a while. And that might be because the Zeitwork check is included out of the box in like the Rails CI config or GitHub Actions config. But somebody might be able to take those new tweaks and add them to Rails itself and improve the onboarding flow or whatever. Because like it's conditional in that YAML template. There's quite a few things that are like, if you have system tests and we want to store the artifacts for the screenshots and yada, yada. And if you're using JS bundling, then maybe we want to install Node and yada, 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 yada. And so maybe there's some sections in there that can be done in parallel, like install Ruby and install Node make perfect sense to do in parallel, and then just wait afterwards for them to be completed. That's super smart.
Yeah. So, or like the Zeitwork, Rubocop, Brakeman,
those I think are already kind of just run as separate things, because those I think are already set up as separate things. They're separate jobs. That's the word I was looking for. Because you've got like scan Ruby, scan JavaScript, lint, test, and system test. So those separate jobs already run in parallel. But if you have stuff internally, that's also really nice to be able to do.
Yeah, well, the nice
maybe
part about
some of them depend on each other or whatever.
Nice part about this is that it runs in parallel in the same job. So like at Podia, like we have, I don't know, like every CI run like spawns like 40 something runners because we have like a deep parallelization over our unit tests. So when you have several people merging constantly, like you're going to be waiting on queue times for actions. So if you have less jobs, then the queue time will be less, and then you can just run them in parallel in the same job.
Yeah, I feel like linting, makes sense to have as a separate job because it's kind of independent or whatever. And as much as that as you can do separately has been my strategy. But now it's nice to have the internal stuff be parallelized. That's super cool. I'll have to think and see if there's anything that I'm doing that would benefit from that. Yeah. Most of it's pretty straightforward, but
if you show me your action files, I can probably give you some pointers. But the other,
it's pretty much Rails new and file. So
I've not used the Rails like CI YAML stuff because I'm a tweaker, right? So I like to tweak, and I'm like, this isn't as optimized or as fast as it could be. And because like I run on a team that I'm constantly working on our CI stuff, it's like this isn't really useful for me personally. But I also have like a big issue with the way that the setup node action like does caching, because it is really dumb in the fact that it like caches like the system node modules for some reason. So like if you ideally, and I have this setup like a custom kind of setup for this where I restore the node modules from the cache. And then if the cache step is hit, if it's a hit, then you don't need to run yarn install. And then if there's no hit, then you run yarn install and then you save the new cache. But if there is a hit, then you do not need to run yarn install at all. But the way the default one, the setup node one works out of the box is that it will always run yarn install even if there's a cache hit. So that adds up to like another minute for every single time you have to set up node, which is dumb.
Surprising. Yeah. Huh. I have not used yarn for a while, but that does seem like a point of optimization. They're going to do like the safest thing.
Yeah,
of
course.
So maybe there's cases or edge cases that would benefit from that. But yeah, if you can avoid it, that's great.
Yeah. Unless you actually update a yarn, your package.json, then we never have to run yarn install because it's always just pulled from the cache. So, and like I said, like we do a lot of parallelization in our unit tests. So like for all of those like 40 plus runners that spin up, they would be adding an extra minute and a half to each of them for doing the yarn install if we didn't have this.
Wow.
Are you tired of babysitting your job queues? Let us do it for you. JudoScale monitors and autoscales your job queues so you can stop babysitting and get back to coding. We support Sidekick, SolidQ, Good Job, and just about every other job backend in Rubyland. And of course, we autoscale your web services too. JudoScale scales up your apps faster than any other autoscaler, so request timeouts and backed up job queues are mitigated before they become a problem. JudoScale has a free plan you can use forever, so there's literally no risk, whether you're on Heroku, AWS, Render, or any other cloud platform. Visit judoscale.com and get your job queues under control.
They don't really talk about it. They kind of go over a little bit in the advanced docs and setup node, but not really. I'm sure that there are apps and cases where this wouldn't work, but
yeah,
for Rails app, like, you just don't need to do it.
Expirations, like if you weren't actively working on your app and you came back to it 6 months later, like does GitHub Actions internally just expire that cache after a certain time period?
I think so.
So,
but like then
that may
there
be
wouldn't
the
be a
case where,
cache
like,
hit.
yeah, I guess in that case, it wouldn't have been able to restore the cache or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
because they both do caching, but with my way, you just don't need to run yarn install again.
Yeah, that's great. Good improvements.
Yep. So happy with that. Always a big win when I can actually ship something that's been on my mind for a while. Some of the stuff in this PR was specifically because of the new changes to GitHub Actions, but other things were like things that have been on my mind for like a while and I just hadn't gotten around to. It was like, oh, it's so nice to kind of get all of this out.
You know,
do you have a link to what those GitHub action changes were? I apparently need to do some more reading.
I can link the GitHub blog changelog that talks about them, and it links to the actions workflow syntax docs that go over it in more depth. I cannot link my changes because they're
obviously not your changes.
I can show you later what they look like, but
I was asking more for the GitHub documentation so I can dive into what's going on there and see how I can use them.
I linked the changelog in the show notes. At the bottom of the changelog says read the GitHub Actions workflow syntax documentation. That's where you can kind of get into more depth on what some of these things are, because they don't explain it super well in the blog post. They just kind of say like, these are the things that we have. It would kind of been more useful to show like an example of how they all work in practice, but the deeper syntax docs can help you out there.
Nice.
Big
improvements. You know what we haven't complained about for a while? GitHub's downtime.
I haven't noticed it that much recently.
Yeah. Everybody all of a sudden just forgets.
I heard there was a talk at Brighton Ruby about that, or where that came up, maybe. Or maybe it was a private conversation. I don't know. At some point, it was discussed at Brighton Ruby. Who knows?
It's one of those things you don't really appreciate it until you lose the stability there. And then you're like, this is a disaster. When it comes back, you're just like, oh, I didn't even notice. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think someone said that their traffic had increased by like over 50% this year, which is kind of wild.
At least because like the commit number has gone exponential because you just have LLMs committing insane amounts and stuff. So I can imagine the traffic has gone insanely crazy, and you're prepared for the current scale you're at plus some, but not like probably exponential amounts. And those are where the bottlenecks start to always appear. So I'm sure they hit plenty of those things, but like surprisingly, they calm down. And, you know, it's one of those things where like they're like apologizing when things are bad, but they should be like, look, we fixed it for you. You know?
Yeah.
Because what the competitors are going to do is like, well, Cursor or whoever is going to be like, well, we're now going to build our own Git hosting service, and you can just pay Anthropic for their version. We'll just have it tightly integrated with Claude or something. And, you know, it just sort of like leaves the opportunity out there. They need to be able to come back and own it again, but they've just kind of lost it. You lose the trust and it's like gone. It's just gone.
Yeah. I have noticed an uptick in people moving to Codeberg, which has been around for a while. Like, I feel like if I was going to switch, I would switch to GitLab. That seems like an easy no-brainer for me because they have a lot of really nice stuff inside GitLab. No.
I've tried it. It feels so clunky in comparison. I don't know what it is about it. I struggle with it. I always come back to GitHub, even with all of its flaws. But a Jumpstart was on GitLab for a long time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back before, what was it? GitHub then made private teams repos like free or something, which is a crazy move because that must have been like a decent chunk of revenue. But GitHub at that point had been like, well, 99% of our revenue must come from enterprise installs or something. So they were like, well, screw it. We'll make team repos, private repos, whatever, free. I was like kind of amazed by that.
That was after Actions came out. I imagine a good chunk of revenue
was it?
Probably comes.
I think so. Before. It was before. Yeah. Pretty sure.
I'm sure that Actions and then everything they've come out since, like in the AI ecosystem, like with their hosted models and their Copilot and everything. But I'm sure that's definitely giving them a boost in revenue. Although they're probably slashed it by the amount of infrastructure and stuff they have to add now.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God. What was the number I saw that was like Metacap's internal AI token spending?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Because I'm pretty sure they were one of those places that were like, we're going to have like an AI leaderboard and we're going to judge you by how many tokens you're using.
Right.
And that's what Reddit said. Who knows if that was true or not, but if true, sounds dumb.
Employees consumed 73.7 trillion tokens in roughly 30 days.
Which is wild because they have Olama, which runs locally. So what the hell are they doing? They're like, well, our thing's not good enough. We got to pay these other companies.
It's interesting because like locally, you're going to be limited, but also it's still useful for so much stuff. You will have to use the cloud probably for the full volume of like knowledge of programming logic and syntax and examples and all that stuff. You will benefit from having like a massive amount of knowledge there that is going to be damn near impossible to distill locally. But like you can still distill so much stuff locally that is still beneficial. It's just the trade-offs are probably going to be quite a while before you can do super duper fancy stuff locally, because God knows RAM and storage prices are insane.
Well, did you see what Apple released recently?
What was that? I forget.
So they made the claim that they turned 2 billion iPhones into local AI machines. And I'm on the new developer builds of the latest versions, which are pretty nice. But they have a repo, Apple/Core AI-models, and it's an open source companion to Apple's new Core AI framework. It's three things. It exports recipes that convert a curated catalog of popular open source models from Hugging Face into Apple's on-device.ai model format. It includes Python primitives for authoring your own PyTorch models for on-device and a Swift package to run these models inside a macOS or iOS app. And then it has some skills for like how to use it. So pretty interesting. They're making it so that you can start putting like some of these open source models like on device and like in the apps and more. I don't know a ton about it, but yeah, it's basically for their new Core AI framework to run AI models on your app on Apple Silicon.
That's dope. They also have that container framework or whatever that I've been meaning to check out too.
I looked into that a little bit, but I don't remember a ton about it anymore.
Yeah, it's like github.com/apple/container. I saw it come up several times recently and I was like, I should check this out, but I haven't had time to.
A tool for creating and running Linux containers using lightweight virtual machines on a Mac. Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, the OCI compatible container images. Because if you remember like that, we were talking about Mies last week and how they can now turn your Mies file into an OCI container image. So I'm wondering if our Docker days may soon be behind us if you're on a Mac, if you're able to use Apple's like built-in software to run containers. That'd be pretty nice.
Might be. Which is fascinating because Docker came out of building a hosting platform or whatever. Now it's like this thing that became sort of a business, but then it's just also sort of open source. And so now it's like going to get so much adoption that it can't necessarily be a business again or whatever. Like it's a strange evolution of it all. Too much adoption means that it needs to be freely available as like more of a standard, like the OCI thing, instead of the specific Docker implementation of it doesn't matter as much. It needs to be like a standard at that point, which is pretty cool, but also like fascinating looking at it from a business standpoint.
Yeah, I figured a long time ago that like Docker may not be around forever, but like whole containers and images thing is definitely here to stay.
Absolutely. Yep.
I got an email from Ruby Central, didn't read it. They're doing like a raffle for like dinner with Mats or something. If you buy
that's been going on for a while, right?
Has it? I went through my emails recently, which was like 150 of them.
Yeah. I'm sure David could tell us more.
The raffle itself is over. I think it closed July 1st. So yesterday is at the time of recording. But yeah, I think it was just a way to get invited to the speaker dinner without actually being a speaker, I thought, but I could be wrong.
You got like reserved seats in the front rows or something, and a few other things too, I think. But yeah, it's just kind of like a VIP experience thing.
Yep.
Which is a cool idea.
Yeah. So ticket to the speaker dinner, VIP seating for all the keynotes, and a personal thank you from the board and staff. I'm not sure exactly what form that personal thank you will take, but
it better be a handshake and a direct eye contact, like thank you from each member, like in a line.
Love it. That's coming up fast, right?
Yeah, it's pretty close, right?
Yeah, this episode comes out, I think, on July 10th, next Friday. That'll be like the Friday before the conference.
Yeah.
Dave, are you wearing a Dragon Ball Z gi shirt?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
exactly what it is. Yes.
Yeah, that's sick. I just realized that. I was literally just talking about Piccolo being the origin of aura farming this morning.
Nice.
There are still tickets available for Rails World this year too. Wow.
Really? Still? That's crazy.
So do you think that's because they just had a lot more tickets, or the novelty is worn off a bit, or because the economy is going down the toilet? Or people don't want to come to the US?
All of the above.
All of the above, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think the economy is a big part of it. Dude, everything's gotten so expensive these days. What free cash you do have has to go to Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever. Like, you can't have spare change anymore. It's either going to food and rent or to LLMs. That's it.
I saw a meme the other day, and it was like a mom and her starving children. It was like, Mom, why are we hungry? And she was like, well, it's because your dad paid for Claude Max and ChatGPT Max and Cursor Premium, and he never shipped anything.
It's so fascinating. I imagine they're getting progressively closer to not necessarily having to subsidize the cost, but the companies that are winning right now are the NVIDIA, Supermicro, Micron, anybody that manufactures SSDs,
the infrastructure companies.
Yeah. The fascinating part is the LM companies are, they're doing great revenue, but like the plans just keep going up in price. Eventually that's going to hit a point where it's going to be $1,000 a month or whatever. Like, that's going to make sense to offer as plans for people. And I don't see inflation slowing down, it feels like. So people are going to run out of money to spend at a point, and who knows what happens with all that. Maybe that's when you'll be able to get on Craigslist and buy some old GPUs from the data center.
You can buy some secondhand tokens.
That's when local LLMs will just explode, because I can get a $20,000 GPU for $200. Run it at home now.
I can run a pretty big model on my M5.
Then the big thing is going to be your electricity company's stock is going to go way up.
Dude, don't talk to me about electricity companies. Our electricity just keeps going up and up and up.
We've been lucky because we have a co-op. Every year I get a check back in the mail for like profits that they've made that they're like, well, we'll give it back to you, which is crazy.
Wow.
Sounds nice.
Being here, yeah.
Just makes me want to get solar so bad. Just to have a whole bunch of solar panels on my roof.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. The downside here is like, if you produce extra, they don't pay you for it. So you're just donating to the grid. So then you need solar and batteries. And the ideal just be solar, hopefully. But if you really want to keep your air conditioning and refrigerator and stuff running at night, batteries are also required, and those aren't cheap either. but there's getting to be more options now too, which is nice. It used to be kind of just the Tesla Powerwall and stuff as your option for home, but I feel like there's a lot more now.
I saw a post that said solar farms are starting to hire Falcons, and I was like, okay, must investigate. And it turns out that, you know how crows like shiny things? Well, crows really like shiny broken glass because, you know, profits in their mind, right? So what these crows are doing is dropping rocks on solar panels.
They're so smart
to break the glass to get their stonks up. So the company's like, all right, we got to hire Falcons to get the crows from dropping freaking rocks on our solar panels. And that's just the funniest thing in the world to me.
That's wild.
Just imagine crows breaking your solar panels. They're like, oh, there's money over there. It's just like a gold rush for them.
But imagine the like first few times you noticed it. What is happening here? You get pissed off enough that you're like, I'm going to sit out in the field with binoculars from a distance, hidden. You know, whoever's doing this is not going to catch me, and I'll catch them. And then you see it's freaking birds dropping rocks.
The fact that they're going to get a rock,
how am I going to explain this to my boss?
Yeah. How am I going to explain that crows are like, oh, wait, solar panels, fly away, get a rock, and
you
come back.
To your boss's office looking just crazy, and you're like, the crows, it's the crows.
Oh my God. It's like, we're losing money. We got to figure this out. You come back in, I'm like, we need to invest in pellet guns.
Like, have you had a sanity check recently, sir?
That's why it was so absurd to me. I was like, why the heck would a crow drop a rock on a solar panel? And that just the ADHD spiral figured this out. I was so worth it.
That's so funny. Wow. They're super smart, though. That's a good example of that. That's wild.
Yep. Apparently they found like the modern equivalent of a gold rush. They're like, guys, hear me out.
Like, we pick up the glass. We take it to the recycling company. We deposit it there. They give us a penny. We take the penny to the bank. And then we invest it in Bitcoin.
How does a crow attribute value? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what are they trading or something? Like, what's going on in the crow ecosystem?
Too smart. That's wild.
Tiny is all that matters.
Yeah. They've got to have their own like thrift market or whatever, flea markets. And they're like trading glass for like berries or something.
There you go.
It's amazing.
Well, I've got to get back to work because DigitalOcean shipped their Ubuntu Resolute image yesterday, finally. So I got to go update some things in Hatchbox and get that live.
Nice.
I'm stoked for everybody spinning up new servers on the latest version. I feel like there's been a ton of improvements on Ubuntu since then. They like even replaced the sudo command with like the Rust implementation. I forget, sudo rs or something. Like all the like commands I'm used to seeing the specific output from, they're all different. Like apt has a much cleaner output and everything, and it just feels weird, but it also feels like, ooh, this is new. This is exciting.
It feels like just last week you're ranting about Ubuntu and how crap it was.
Yeah. Always. Well, they've changed like all kinds of various little things. They've like removed apt key or whatever that command was, and so you got to go change that. And some of the instructions for various different things are new, some haven't been updated, and there's always stuff to fix, but onwards and upwards. But it means I got a lot of work to do, so I'll have to catch you guys next week.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Alrighty, see you later. Peace out.
Ciao.